As memory surfaced, a narrative unfolded across disparate times and places, connecting cold Alaskan nights to the bustle of a Kansas City circus. One figure spoke of old acquaintances and a life that eventually wore out, their gaze lost in the melancholic recount of decades past, while the other listened with quiet, reflective absorption. Standing before a solemn tombstone, the older individual, leaning on a cane, recalled a strong but simple friend, their expression etched with quiet reflection. A taller companion, gazing down at the marker, nodded in agreement, adding fondly how beloved this person had been by the children they worked with, a shared sentiment of remembering a truly kind soul. Before the solemn stone, the name Hercules stood etched, a silent testament to a life lived. The accompanying words, his choicest prize, eternal peace, resonated with a quiet, profound finality, leaving an unsaid weight in the air. As their gaze settled upon the etched name, a solemn silence fell, and they quietly uttered, Hercules. A furrow deepened in their brow, betraying a profound respect and perhaps a painful memory stirred by the name. With a gaze still heavy from the name etched on the stone, they quietly confirmed the promise made. A somber tone filled their voice as they recounted a life riddled with enemies, forcing the deceased to hide behind countless assumed identities. Recalling the small funeral and the sudden fog that rolled in, the figure in the cap spoke with a quiet solemnity. From behind, the red-skinned companion offered a hesitant, "Who knows?" before turning their gaze forward, their expression heavy as they acknowledged the true identity of Hercules. With a gaze still heavy and their jaw set firm beneath the cap's shadow, the figure continued their somber recollection. They uttered, almost to themselves, that after all else, there was only the monster. As they ascended the shadowy path, the leading figure's concerned gaze sought reassurance, asking if the strange presence had caused any harm. The other, recounting how its sudden appearance alongside the tombstone had unnerved the townsfolk, shrugged with slight uncertainty, noting it rarely moved, but admitting they hadn't checked on its noises today. A sharp, drawn-out squee pierced the frigid air, cutting through the silence of the desolate peaks. The sound seemed to resonate from the very ice and stone, a desolate cry from the indifferent wilderness they traversed. As the piercing squeal echoed through the desolate space, the shadowed figure's face snapped towards the source, mouth agape in startled alarm. Beside them, their companion, with glowing eyes fixed on the unfolding situation, dryly acknowledged that this was clearly not the noise they had been anticipating. With a shadowed gaze, they proposed a plan, stating they would wait there to avoid being an obstacle. Their hand held a symbolic object firmly as they gave precise directions, assuring the other to keep going straight, certain they couldn't miss it. From atop the jagged rocks, a figure pointed, their intent gaze conveying an earnest offer of support if ever called upon. The other, already facing away into the desolate space, gave a simple, perhaps weary, acknowledgement before continuing onward. A shrill, drawn-out squeal suddenly tore through the frigid silence, causing the figure to turn their shadowed gaze towards the source. They remained still, a watchful presence, observing the monstrous form as it cried out, an unknown distress or warning in its sound. As the figure turned towards the disturbance, a sharp pop suddenly echoed, scattering fragments from the mechanism. It was a jarring, unexpected retort in the newly broken silence. With wide, glowing eyes locked on the sudden disturbance, a frustrated son of a began to escape their lips. The immediate impact of the sharp pop and scattering fragments solidified the unwelcome realization of the chaos that had just unfolded. As the commotion arose, the figure brought a finger to their lips, their steady gaze conveying a clear demand for quiet. They gestured towards the massive, sleeping creature, having just carefully tended to its formidable teeth. With a gaze of exasperation, the figure on the right sharply questioned the other's odd behavior, urging them to get down from their perch. Unfazed, the blonde-haired individual, holding a peculiar tool and a small, gruesome trophy, cheerily explained their collection, even offering a glimpse of their progress. The figure, eyes wide with urgency, abruptly lunged forward, their gaze fixed on something just out of frame. As they forcefully called out for someone to come closer, their hand instinctively tightened around a vibrant red object, while the other held a small, fluttering item. The small figure, with a surprisingly bold directness, looked up at the large figure, questioning their local origins and family. Responding with a mix of concern and exasperation, the large figure admonished them for potentially endangering themselves. However, the smaller figure defiantly declared their obscure home from Scythian, leaving the large figure utterly bewildered, their hand raising in disbelief. With a faint, almost timid curiosity, the figure looked up, offering an unexpected invitation to see their collection. A quiet sense of hope, tinged with slight apprehension, flickered across their face. The large figure, with eyes holding a weighty, direct gaze, paused as they looked down at the unexpected invitation. A gruff kid began to escape them, their expression hinting at a mix of surprise and weary contemplation. The weighty gaze from the speaker continued as they declared a stunning inventory of mythical rarities, from an iron feather to centaur's blood. Each item spoken seemed to deepen the sense of profound power, undoubtedly leaving the listening figure with a mixture of awe and dawning realization. The speaker revealed another somber artifact, the tears of a grieving princess. A question mark hung over the large figure's head, their wide eyes fixed on the speaker, reflecting a mixture of confusion and profound contemplation. The larger figure firmly gestured, commanding the other to return home. But with a determined gaze, the smaller figure insisted on their unique resilience, even offering to prove it as the larger one tried to speak again. Ignoring the command to return home, their gaze narrowed to a furious squint, a guttural growl of frustration escaping them. They seethed with determination, implicitly challenging anyone who doubted their resolve to prove it. A sudden, roaring sound made the larger figure's eyes snap wide, their mouth agape in startled disbelief. With a hand raised in a gesture of exasperation, they questioned what the other was trying to do. A frustrated sigh escaped them, lamenting the unfolding situation, as the massive creature above them remained wide-eyed and still, a single drop of fluid trailing from its jaw. Beside them, a smaller figure looked up, calmly observing that a bad word had been uttered, an almost innocent interjection in the tense silence. A primal arunk tore through the air from the massive creature, its glowing eye burning with raw power. The overwhelming force struck the smaller figure with a deafening boom, leaving them wide-mouthed and stunned as debris scattered into the void. A powerful, red-gloved fist slammed into the massive creature's open maw with a deafening boom, abruptly cutting short its primal roar. A frustrated command for silence, a sharp quiet "you" echoed with undeniable force, ending the cacophony. The creature's massive head snapped back, its maw still agape in a silent roar of pain. From its side, shattered light and ethereal debris erupted, revealing the immense force that shook its very being. As the colossal creature reeled, its monstrous maw still agape, an observer's eyes widened in a sudden gasp of realization. "The Hydra," they murmured, a mix of awe and dread crossing their face. As the monstrous heads shrieked and recoiled from the impact, their mouths still impossibly wide. The figure watched them, a hint of dry skepticism in their assessment, wondering aloud at the creature's peculiar, almost artificial appearance. The air thundered with colossal boom as the impact struck, sending shards of debris flying. The creature's head reeled back, its immense eye wide with agony, its jaw still impossibly agape in a silent scream. Amidst the still-flying debris from the thunderous impact, a determined set to their jaw mirrored the unspoken damn that crossed their mind. Their gaze, steady and unflinching, held a weariness born of relentless battle. As the multi-headed entity let out a guttural ronk-onk-onk, it coiled tightly around the struggling figure. With sharp, predatory gazes, its other heads watched the entangled form, one blinking in startled alarm. Amidst the crushing coils, a desperate shout of "H-H-H-H-H-H" escaped their lips as the multi-headed creature's fangs pierced their flesh. With eyes wide in pain and alarm, they grunted "HY." while struggling futilely against the tightening grip. Amidst the mute desolation, their gaze searched the sparse landscape, a quiet question lingering on their lips. Leaning on their cane, a deep concern permeated their posture as they sought any sign of the one called Hellboy. The jagged yellow of the eye pierced the gloom, a fierce gaze locking onto its target. A low, menacing grr rumbled from the shadowed form, promising a brutal response. Plummeting through the air, the figure let out a guttural cry, a rah-rah, echoing its desperate struggle. Below, a hungry pack of creatures twisted upwards, their jaws snapping shut with a brutal chomp, eager to claim their falling target. The colossal beast unleashed a terrifying roar, its multiple heads snapping wildly as it reacted to the sharp pain. A smaller, resolute creature clung to its flank, teeth buried deep and tearing fiercely. After their desperate fall, the figure's heavy form plunged violently into the dark water with a loud SPLOSH. The sudden, jarring impact momentarily stole their breath as the world dissolved into a frothing, watery chaos. The bloodied, lion-like beast lifted its head, its glowing eyes fixing on them as it spoke, a questioning kid escaping its jaws. The red-skinned figure met its gaze with a grim, silent stare, their thoughts unspoken in the tense moment. With a steady, glowing gaze, the bloodied beast held their attention, its question hanging heavy in the air. A slow drop of crimson fell from its maw, adding weight to its intense scrutiny. As the beast's question lingered, a subtle, disquieting ripple ran through the air, leaving a stark silence in its wake. All that remained was the profound, unsettling echo of its words. The disquieting ripple from the beast's query expanded, its subtle echo tracing faint lines across the vast, empty expanse. Amidst the stark, cold ground, only a chilling silence remained, holding the lingering weight of what was spoken. The beast's central head reared up, mouth agape and glistening, its multiple dull blue eyes fixed forward with an unnerving intensity. A palpable sense of menace radiated from its form, amplifying the disquieting echo of its lingering query. The creature, its jaw still wide and glistening, leaned closer to pose a disquieting question about the lion's sudden appearance. The red figure, looking up, met its gaze, a weary contemplation crossing their features as they processed the strange inquiry. The red-skinned figure, seemingly unfazed by the recent encounter, calmly declared it wasn't too difficult and offered to arrange for its removal. Their companion, however, looked away with a hesitant gaze, murmuring softly as if still processing the casualness of the situation. With a casual thumbs up, the red-skinned figure declared the challenge wasn't too bad, while the multi-headed creature gasped its last, collapsing onto the barren ground. Gazing at the defeated monstrosity, the other figure offered a quiet, okay, their calm acceptance suggesting a familiar end to extraordinary encounters. With an intent gaze, the red-skinned figure inquired about a lost child or even a lion, their voice carrying a certain gravity. The smaller figure, startled by the peculiar questions, could only stammer a bewildered denial. The question about a lost presence hung unspoken between them as they overlooked the serene, wide landscape. Finally, one of the figures offered a soft, almost resigned never mind, their gaze still fixed on the horizon, letting the thought drift away. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. At Manga Narration. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. At Manga Narration. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. At Manga Narration. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. At Manga Narration. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. At Manga Narration. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. At Manga Narration. An ethereal, lion-like figure lay solemnly before the tombstone marked Hercules, its glowing blue eyes holding an eternal vigil. Around its still form, leaves drifted silently through the darkness, signifying a poignant and quiet end.